Okay, I think now it's time to start. Good afternoon and warmly welcome to Silver Bucket webinar. The topic for this webinar is efficient resource management in engineering firms. This webinar has three parts. In the beginning, I will briefly tell you about some best practices and common pain points in the resource management of project organizations. Then some discussion about key performance indicators, KPIs of resource management process. And finally, about the responsibilities of project organizations' different roles in resource management. The estimated length of the webinar is 40-45 minutes, and after the webinar, I will give a short demonstration of Silver Bucket resource management tool. But I can see from the list of attendees that there are some existing Silver Bucket customers on the line. You might find this part maybe quite simple because I will cover absolute basics of Silver Bucket. So the demo is targeted for the people without earlier experience about Silver Bucket. So total length of the session containing also the demonstration is about 1 hour. And questions are always welcome. I will answer them between the webinar part and the demo, and also in the very end of this session, after the demonstration. You can use the webinar tools chatbot to ask your questions. But first of all, the introduction of the speaker. My name is Tuomas Mikkola. I work as a project business consultant at Silver Bucket. I have been on board in Silver Bucket since the day one, so I'm one of the founders here. Silver Bucket is a Finnish company providing software for project organizations for optimizing their resourcing process. My background, like the background of other two founders of the company, is on professional services. All of us, we were working in an IT company in Finland, and we were responsible of our own portfolio of projects. One of our duties was to take care that each and every project team did have a decent resourcing plan. So we had plenty of people, plenty of projects, and started to develop a process how to keep track of this situation. For this purpose, we evaluated lots of different tools, some ERP systems, PSA tools, etc. But very soon we found out that the resource management was only just a side note in these traditional tools. So we were not able to find any decent tools and ended up using Excel spreadsheets for managing the resources. And this was the spark for founding Silver Bucket. We started to build a tool for project portfolio resource management, which we would have needed by ourselves. Well, this decision was made about more than 10 years ago, but we are still on that track. We have implemented that tool that we dreamed about, but maybe more importantly, we have seen hundreds and hundreds of different project organizations and seen their resource management processes. And today I'm going to discuss about our experiences based on real-world cases. So I will tell you about some best practices, how to build an efficient process for resource management of a project organization. I will also give you some examples about common pain points, some typical bad practices. As a summary, I would say that project management practices, how to take care of one single project, they are really on an excellent level, no problem there. But for some reason, the resource management in a project organization is kind of a blind spot. The resourcing plan typically does not exist, or it is spread all over the organization. And this is not right. In project business, it's all about people. There is simply no way how to succeed if you do not have the right kind of competence in your project team, or if you do not have enough people. This is a typical high-level view to the resourcing situation in a project organization. The project managers do have their own resourcing plan for the projects, and also the team managers keep track of the situation of their own teams. But unfortunately, this is not enough. In this scenario, the middle management or the top-level management doesn't have a clue about the situation. And this is really absurd, because the top-level management is making the most important decisions in the company. They decide whether to start the recruitment, or if it's necessary to downsize the organization, or decide if some subcontracting contracts need to be negotiated. These kind of decisions will be wrong, or they will be done desperately too late without an accurate resourcing information. What's the solution? Well, we need to have one centralized database for the resourcing information. By using that centralized database, each and every person in the project organization is able to see the situation. The project managers see and update the resourcing plan of their projects, and same goes with the team managers. They maintain the situation of their own people. And what is crucial here? The top-level management does have valid information in order to make the decisions. They are able to see possible overload situations or underload situations and react early enough. I guess everyone remembers this one. It's a Tetris game. I would say that resource planning in a project organization is much like playing Tetris. There are always some ongoing changes, like new projects are starting, projects are coming to an end, some projects may be delaying. And the same goes with the people. New people join the company, some people change to another job, etc. All of these changes need to be handled in the resourcing process. Tetris blocks, meaning people and projects, they keep on falling faster and faster, and the new blocks never fit well to the existing ones if you do not have enough time to see the perfect spot for the new blocks. As a result, you'll have empty space in your Tetris board, and you do not use your personnel in an optimal way. But the rules of Tetris game can be changed. If you have decent tools and decent processes in your organization, then you are able to see the falling blocks early enough and have time to react. You can make the decisions based on facts and see how to fit the new blocks to an optimal spot. You will have a perfect plan about the resourcing situation. Let me introduce you a typical resource management tool. That's a megaphone. Well, it's quite a primitive tool used in the corridors of an office by shouting, is there somebody available to join my project team? Or something quite similar. Project manager might go around and whisper to an ear of a favorite person. Could you please join my project team? It's only a couple of days. Can you do it? And, well, please do not tell your boss about this arrangement. But, unfortunately, the sound of a megaphone or a whisper doesn't carry too far. There might be some other people in other business units or other locations with much better availability. Nobody just knows about it. The solution, once again, is a centralized view to the resourcing situation. Using this view, you are able to find who is the best possible person to join your project. The following resourcing practice is related to the previous one. Sad but true, in many cases, the one with the loudest voice or the meanest arguments win. You should always remember that the resourcing decisions must be made considering the entire situation and by the project priorities. If you listen to the individuals with a loud voice or mean arguments, you end up making a partial optimization. You should always remember that these kind of arguments, they are not always true. The duty of a project manager is definitely to look after the project. Do not always listen to them. Make your own decisions, considering the big picture and the strategy, not an individual project only. How to avoid this? Well, we need to have clear rules that everybody follows and everybody knows. No one is shouting to a megaphone or is making secret commitments. In the resourcing plan, there must be one truth only, which is visible for everyone. And there must also be a well-defined process how to change that plan, and everybody must, of course, follow the process. No tool is useful if people are refusing to use it. With too difficult tools, people simply stop maintaining the information. And when this happens, you cannot rely on the information anymore. And of course, you cannot make the necessary decisions. This is also a crucial aspect with resource management tools. You need to have the entire organization using the tool. If this is not true, you are not able to see the big picture anymore. But there are, of course, always some people who are against new tools. That's a fact, and you need to live with that. But resource management tools especially need to be used by everyone, also by those people who are not that familiar with the computers. Moving on, actually to the second part of this webinar, I will tell you about some key performance indicators, KPIs, of a resource management process. So why is it so important to follow certain KPIs? Well, in the bottom line, it's all about money. Having a non-optimal resourcing plan is really like burning money. And that's, of course, something we all really hate. In a project organization, majority of the costs are salaries and other personnel-related costs. And that's why it's totally insane to utilize people inefficiently just because of bad processes or bad resource management tools. I will demonstrate this with an extremely simple example of an income statement with really simple example values, which are easy for you to adjust to your own organization. So let's have an example. A typical organization on professional services, employing 100 employees. This company is able to invoice 75% of their hours. Their average hourly price is 100 hours, and their yearly operating expenses are 120,000 euros per person. With these assumptions, our example company is able to make approximately 13 million euros of revenue and roughly 1.2 million euros of profit. Okay. Another example. Let's make the assumption that all the other parameters remain the same, but the invoicing rate is improved. So the new invoicing rate is 85%. The hourly price and the operating expenses remain the same. What is the effect? Well, now we are able to make approximately 15 million euros revenue. And the operating profit is more than doubled. Good tools and good practices related to the resourcing management can help to improve the invoicing rate. Of course, if you already have a pretty mature practices, increasing invoicing rate by 10 percentage points is, of course, challenging. But in case you are having problems with these processes, this is certainly doable. And for an organization providing professional services, this could even mean that the operating profit is doubled. And this is the topic we are talking about. We are going to introduce some fundamental key performance indicators related to resource management process of project organizations. Our assumption is that the organization is invoicing their expertise from external customers. So typically an engineering company on professional services in general. And we are starting with the capacity, which is the green line in our simple example. The capacity is a theoretical maximum. How many hours is the entire personnel able to do during the regular hours? Then, blue area. That indicates the total number of allocations for the entire personnel for invoiceable projects. And there we have our first important KPI available, the estimated invoicing rate of the organization compared with the capacity. But before we start to improve the invoicing rate, we of course need to set the target for the future invoicing rate. And here in our graph, this invoicing rate target is visualized as a yellow line. And now it's possible to see difference between the current invoicing rate and the target. The nature of project business heavily affects the visibility of the future allocations. Typically, organizations on professional services are able to get a reliable estimate of the future resourcing situation from 4 to 20 months ahead. Also, the target for the invoicing rate can be set based on the character of the organization. The impressive things are, for example, typical hourly rate, available sales resources, and the maturity of the resourcing process. But of course, obviously, the project organization must also be able to deliver the project successfully in order to reach this targeted invoicing rate. The project organization really should live and breathe the information provided by these kind of graphs, containing up-to-date project allocations. So whenever there are some differences between the estimate and the target, it's really time to make some corrective actions. This could mean to start to recruit more people or maybe to downsize the organization. The invoicing rate is really the lifeline of project organization in professional services. It pays the bills and salaries. Moving on to next fundamental KPI. The project organizations have, of course, also other activities, but the invoiceable customer projects. There should always be some time for the development, both for the processes and for the people. And new products and services must, of course, also be developed. And some administrative tasks always take some time. So now we have a new area in our resourcing graph. This purple area indicates the allocations for all the internal and non-invoiceable projects. And this combination of invoiceable and non-invoiceable allocations gives us the second important KPI, the utilization rate. This KPI gives an understanding how much people are employed by all the planned activities in the future. This difference between the invoicing rate and the utilization rate is crucial for the top-level management. So utilization rate is as fundamental KPI as the invoicing rate. Still, these two numbers, of course, cannot match, or they can only match for a short period of time, because there should always be some time for trainings, development, administration, and these kind of activities. When the utilization rate is close or even above the capacity, we lose flexibility for urgent needs. Another risk is to overload the personnel and cause some stress and other problems. So certain gap between the invoicing rate and utilization rate is really needed. Then, of course, the personnel are not available throughout the year. There are some planned and also some unplanned absences, like holidays or sick leaves. Keeping track of the planned absences is also important to be able to get an estimate of availability of all the people and also for the financial estimates. And here we have the third area in the graph. The planned absences are shown as a green area. That's our third KPI to be followed, the resourcing rate, which is the sum of invoiceable allocations, non-invoiceable allocations, and planned absences. We have stacked all these three basic types of work to the same graph. This approach gives us an excellent understanding about all the allocations that have been assigned at individual level. The resourcing rate in an optimal situation should follow the capacity of the organization. Typically, the resourcing rate should be at least 90% or even 95%. But still, usually it's a good idea to leave some time for changes and not to target the resourcing rate to be 100%. And then, on the other hand, of course, low resourcing rate means unoptimal use of resources. Then, moving on, it's not always possible to fulfill all the resourcing needs of a project at the same time. And that's why it's necessary to be able to make some role-based reservations. And in the next example, we have a pink area indicating these pending role needs. And once again, there we have a new KPI available, the resourcing demand rate. That KPI gives us the ratio between all the demands of all projects compared with the capacity. But the nature of the resourcing demand rate is different compared with the other KPIs. The fundamental difference is that it might differ over the time. On the ongoing week, there must not be any pending role needs, so the resourcing demand rate must be below 100%. But far away in the future, it's fully acceptable or even desired to have a higher plan for the resourcing demand rate. When we have more time to react, it's possible to recruit more people or use subcontractors or maybe prioritize projects. In the latter option, we might postpone some internal projects to maximize the revenue. Okay, so now it's time to introduce our final KPI. An organization on professional services never stops selling new projects. There are always plenty of projects in the sales pipeline, some of which are starting, some of which are not. And in order to get a meaningful estimate longer to the future, the opportunities need also be taken into account. For the opportunities, it should be possible to assign certain people, but maybe more generally, the resourcing plan is made in more high level as roles. And there we have our final KPI, the opportunity rate. Well, there are actually two variants here. If we are able to estimate the probabilities of our opportunities, we can also follow the weighted opportunity rate. In this variant, the resourcing plan of the opportunities are scaled with their probabilities. So this opportunity rate gives you an estimate about resources needed still longer to the future. And this will give the organization even more time to react for the changes in the project business. Perfect. Now it's time to move on and start the final part of this webinar. I will discuss about responsibilities of project organizations' different roles in resource management. I will shortly describe one example of resource management process and describing the key responsibilities of different roles in this process. I am using a virtual organization as an example, employing about 500 people and providing professional services. However, majority of the roles and responsibilities that I am going to discuss are fully suitable for other types of businesses as well. About the terminology, our example organization has multiple departments, all of which contain several different teams. And about the roles. In this example, we have the following roles participating in the resource management process. Project managers, sales managers, team managers, department directors, and controllers. First of all, about the responsibilities of the sales managers. They are making an initial resourcing plan for their own opportunities, possible projects in their own sales pipeline. They need to roughly estimate the workload of the potential projects. So how many hours would the project require? In this phase, the allocations are estimated in pretty high level, and the sales manager should be able to define roles needed by this opportunity. Of course, in some cases, it might be required to nominate specific people to the project team. In this case, the team managers should also be consulted. But what is also important here, the sales managers should also estimate the probability of the opportunities. Then, about the responsibilities of the team managers. The most important task of the team managers is to monitor the total workload of the team and follow the utilization rate. The team managers are also handling the resourcing requests made by the sales managers and the project managers. Based on these requests, the team managers are assigning people to the project teams, replacing the role-based allocations with named allocations. And the team managers should also follow the detailed allocations of the team, typically on weekly basis, checking and resolving possible overload and underload situations of the team members. The team managers also participate resource management meetings and introduce their situation there. I will discuss the role of the resource management meetings next. First of all, depending on the size of the organization, there could be only one single resource management meeting for the entire company. But in case of larger organizations, the meetings can be held on department level as well. The main purpose of the resource management meetings is to check possible conflicts in the resourcing plan. A conflict can be, for example, a situation if several project managers need very same person in their project teams. This meeting should also be able to make final decisions in these cases. Depending on the nature of the organization, the frequency of resource management meetings can vary between once a month to 3 times a month. And the sales organization should always give input to the resource management meetings if there are some potential large opportunities, for example. When the project organization knows about these potentially large opportunities early enough, then they are able to be prepared for the possible changes. The basic agenda for this meeting includes to check the projects with pending allocations, to check people with not enough work, and also to report to the executive team. Then, here are the main responsibilities of the project managers in our organization. The project managers can participate the project already in the planning phase. And this is typically a good idea, especially in case of large projects. The project manager can prepare the workload estimates and based on this make an initial resourcing plan for the project. The project managers should also be involved when setting up the project team. And this is done in cooperation with the team managers. When a project has been started, the project managers must constantly update the resourcing plan. It must be revised on a weekly basis at least, and well, it's a good practice to update the plan immediately when some new information is available. Well, of course, the team managers must also be included here each time that some allocations change. For example, if the project is delayed, then the project team, of course, need to remain longer than earlier expected. Of course, the possible changes in the project's resourcing plan must be communicated to the team. Project meetings is a good forum for this. Finally, project manager should follow some project-level KPIs like project budget, live estimates of the project's hours, costs, and so on. We still have a couple of more roles to discuss. Let's continue with the responsibilities of department directors. They are interested about the high-level view of the entire department, both what comes to the people and the projects. In case of conflicts in the resourcing situation, the department directors should act as an escalation point in case the team managers are not able to resolve the problems in the resource management meetings. They are also setting target and following certain KPIs of the department that they are in charge of. The department directors can have assistance from their project management office or from resource managers if such roles exist in the organization. Then the responsibilities of the executive team. They are definitely following the big picture only, not going into the details. They are interested in backlog of ongoing and future projects, they are following the hours, income, costs at a high level. The executive team also should be aware of the situation of the opportunities and manage the sales activities based on the situation. Information about the resourcing situation is, of course, extremely valuable. The executive team may change the focus of sales activities based, for example, on the utilization of different parts of the organization, different sites, different teams, etc. And yet, the executive team is, of course, making the major decisions. Decide about the recruitment, subcontracting, and layoffs. One final role to be discussed: the responsibilities of the controllers. What comes to project business, the controllers are especially interested in estimates of the projects. What is the expected income? What are the expected costs of a project? The resourcing decisions made by the organization are determining these estimates. Let's wrap it up. All the roles in a single process description. On top of our process, the sales managers and project managers are setting up new projects and making resourcing requests. The team managers, they are assigning people to the project teams and following the resourcing situation in resource management meetings. Reporting the hours is task for each and every person in the organization. Then, based on the allocations and based on the actuals, many roles in the organization are monitoring the resourcing process. The executive team, department directors, and also the controllers. Whenever there are changes, then the project managers are updating the situation and the process goes around. Now, we have reached the end of this webinar, and now feel free to ask any questions. Let me shortly check if we have any questions on the chat. Yes, we have at least one. Does it make sense to tell all the people in the company to take care of their own resourcing plan? I think it does, but depending on the culture of the organization and business. We have actually seen some successful companies who are running this kind of policy. Maybe I would say that consulting business is one typical example where the individual consultants could be responsible of their own calendars, and they could even sell their own projects. In these situations, project managers and team managers, it's not necessary to have them in between. Another question, can you still briefly explain the resourcing demand rate, please, especially versus opportunity rate? Yes, one moment, please. I will maybe go back to that example. So there we go. So difference between resourcing demand rate and opportunity rate. Yes. So a resourcing demand rate contains all the allocations in production, so those projects which have already been closed, but the opportunity rate contains only opportunities, projects in the sales pipeline. Both of these rates can contain some role-based allocations, but the major difference is that the resourcing demand rate is only about projects in production, where opportunity rate is only about project in the sales pipeline. That's the difference in a nutshell. Great. No further questions at this time, so let's actually continue with Silverbucket demo. Before going to the demo, let me mention that there is another Q&A session after this demonstration, so you can still post your questions either related to the webinar part or after the demonstration. Silverbucket, in a nutshell, it is a cloud-based application for personnel resource management, typically used by different kind of project organizations for planning the portfolio level of allocations. So it's not a tool for managing one single project. It's maybe designed for more high-level planning. It's used simply with a web browser, and in that sense, really easy to take in use. No installations needed, just a modern enough web browser. And the guideline in building Silverbucket has always been great usability and great end-user experience. We provide really rich and visual views for resource management. Silverbucket is delivered as a standard service, meaning it's extremely fast and easy to take in use. So no time-consuming implementation projects are required. It's simply deployed as is, and after that, some initial data is uploaded to the system and configured according to the customer's needs. And then it's really ready to go. There are actually two possible configuration options. You can use Silverbucket as a standalone service by maintaining all the basic information with Silverbucket views, but maybe more typical option is to build some kind of integration between the existing systems and Silverbucket. In this approach, we are importing a list of people, list of projects at a minimum from backend system, and maybe also some actuals. And then it's possible to start making allocations between the people and projects in the Silverbucket side. Silverbucket customers typically employ between 50 employees, to 20 or 10,000 employees, but there is really no real upper limit here. But if you have a huge number of people, then it's maybe more convenient to have several Silverbucket services in use. We have been in the market already more than 10 years and have customers already on every continent. And here are some examples. But let's continue with the demo. Like I mentioned earlier, this demo is mainly targeted for the people without earlier experience about Silverbucket. So if you are already a Silverbucket customer, you might find this demo quite trivial. But let's get started with the main view of Silverbucket, which is a people allocations view. If I hide the filters, there are two parts of this main view. We have overview graph, which contains the entire organization's allocation situation. And we have list of people who are working in this specific organization. It can be either one single department or the entire organization based on your search criteria, which you have made with Silver Bucket filters. But if we get started with the overview, that gives you an understanding of all the people, all the allocations of the entire company or some specific organization level. In this example, we have weeks running on the x-axis and percentages on y-axis. And we are comparing different types of allocations to the capacity. So these colors in Silver Bucket are exactly the same, like in our webinar example. So total capacity, theoretical maximum, how many hours can this organization spend to project activities? Different colors in the graph indicate different types of project work that has been allocated. This blue area that indicates invoiceable projects for all the people in this organization. Purple color, non-invoiceables like administration or trainings or internal development, that kind of stuff. And absences. We have actually a question there on the line. Is the overview graph customizable? Yes, it is. So actually, it can be customized in many different ways. For example, you can have certain types of projects configured to be showing or to be hidden. It can be customized for different timescales. If you are more interested to see the big picture, you might select the monthly level where you can see, well, depending on the size of your browser, say 1 year ahead or even further, what is the allocation situation. And you can actually also configure the allocation units if you are more interested about the hours or days or FTEs. There are many different allocation units available. Also, there's also actually a possibility to have similar view on projects perspective. I will quickly show you that. So similar kind of allocation graph, but now it is divided by different projects. And there we can see how many hours on July do we need for a project called library, how many hours do we have for absences, etc. Another question, can we also see probable projects, for example, 25% certainty? Yeah, so there's a comprehensive set of different filters in Silver Bucket, and how we are actually filtering projects with probability. There are several ways how to do that. But the basic use case for including or excluding the opportunities is this one. So in Silver Bucket terminology, opportunities are called planned projects, and we can either include or exclude these kind of planned projects in our graphs and other reports. Great. Moving on to personnel list. This actually gives exactly the same kind of data that the overview graph, but on individual level. Now that we have months and hours configured, this one single square indicates how many hours should one person be spending for all the projects all together during certain month. For example, George during June has a little bit less than 85 hours of allocations. But of course, we are also interested about the details. So, for example, we have here, well, Mary Poppins. What are the allocations for Mary? We can use this very same view to check all the projects that have been assigned for Mary. She has actually one real project called Library. Then she has some internal work and also absences in her resourcing plan. Maybe since we are running out of time, I will going to show you one more view in Silverbucket by clicking this project name. Let's see what we have in this project view. What do we have for project dashboard for this library? Well, there's plenty of basic information which can be maintained in Silverbucket or can be imported from some integration. But then we have here similar kind of personnel list, but now only limited to this specific project. In this project team, we actually have two nominated team members, Mary and Per, and there are 4 pending role needs for engineers. And this is actually the answer to the next question on the chat. So rather than the individuals, can the system be used by business role? This is exactly the feature. So it is not mandatory to nominate people to project team. You can have these kind of role-based allocations like these 4 engineers, like in this example. But as a final part of this demo, let's show how the magic happens. So how to change the allocations. So why do we believe that by using Silverbucket, it's really fast and easy to maintain the allocation plan? Well, there are actually 2 different ways how to do that. Maybe I will switch back to weekly view and percentages and see the situation of the project team. We have Mary, we have Per in the project team. Let's assume that we need to have Mary more than expected, so the last week of June as well, with 80% of her capacity, like in the previous week. We can simply do it by clicking this individual square. So last week of June, Mary Poppins in certain project team, and select the level of allocations, 80% in this case. You can actually select multiple squares even on different people and make changes to the allocations with this manner. But if you are making longer term allocations, or if you have varying profile of your allocations, then it might be more convenient to open this kind of allocation grid where you can plan your allocations more easily just by selecting right level, selecting the right time period, by painting it or by drawing it to this resourcing grid and saving changes. This is especially convenient if you have really long-term allocations. You could select monthly view, open resourcing grid, and maybe make allocations for 1 year ahead. 50% of Mary Poppins time. There you go. Situation is up to date. Great. I guess we are now running out of time. If you are interested to hear some more, feel free to contact me or to contact our sales team directly. And here's the contact information for us. Great. I guess it's time to wrap up. Thank you all for participating in this webinar, and have a great day. Thank you.